You know, it's like, are you saying that Helen Markham actually witnessed somebody else murder J.D. Tippett and somehow they were able to get her to lie about that?
Yeah, exactly.
Richard Lauter Jr. asks, where are the curtain rods? We've discussed that today. There never were any.
Well,
go ahead.
There's a picture of curtain rods according to Grodin's book, there's this picture of curtain rods in Ruth Payne's garage, but I'd like to know when that picture was taken. Was it post-assassination or after?
Okay, but I mean, they were still there after the assassination, weren't they? And
well, that's what I want to know. Were they post-assassination or after assassination? I have Grodin's book at home.
Which one? The Last Word or something, no. I think that's what he said.
It's not high treason, right? High treason by Grodin?
I don't know. It might be, actually.
The killing of a president?
That one I have.
Okay.
Matthew Kordolensky asks, Alan Dulles, if Kennedy fired him, why was he on the Warren Commission? Kennedy did not really fire him. Alan Dulles resigned, and at the time, according to contemporary recounts we have, Kennedy initially did not even want to accept Alan Dulles' resignation. And Dulles had to explain to him, no, I, as the director of the CIA, I have to fall on my sword for this to shield you. That way, you can put all of the blame for this on the CIA. You can say the reason why this went bad was because the CIA messed it up, and as the president, it'll allow you to distance yourself from that. After quote-unquote firing him, Kennedy gave Alan Dulles a medal, and the Dulles families and the Kennedys families, they owned property together in Hyannis. Well, they didn't own property together. They owned property that was close together in Hyannisport, and they often hung out, you know. Dulles was good friends with Joseph P. Kennedy, so he didn't really fire him. That's a misconception about the politics.
Okay, so
of what
even if he
there.
did, like what's being implied here is what I'd like to know.
That Alan Dulles should not have been on the Warren Commission because Kennedy fired him, and it's a conflict of interest for him to be investigating Kennedy's death.
Okay. All right.
But Alan Dulles had to be on the Warren Commission because of his unique role as the founding director of the Central Intelligence Agency. Like, he knew where all the bodies were buried. He knew where all the secrets were. So he had to be there to act as a gatekeeper to keep the investigation away from things that didn't really have anything to do with the actual assassination itself.
Keep it focused.
Yeah, but could potentially be damaging to American national security or American prestige.
Yeah.
I can't pronounce people's names, man. Daniel Gerard. I have a good one for you. How come most conspiracy theorists are still so ill-informed? It's because of where they get their information from. When all you are consuming are conspiracy theorist sources, you're going to get bad information.
Yeah, plus if you read just one side, you're bound to be misinformed, right? Mm-hmm. As I was. I mean, I only read conspiracy books for a very, very long time.
Yeah, me too.
So you always want to read both sides, right?
There's a great documentary. I think it's called Conspiracy Theorists Lie. I think it's on Amazon Prime, if you have it. And it's very apt. Conspiracy theorists do lie. They lie to you all the time. They omit facts. They don't present it, you know? Like, there's one of my favorite scenes in Oliver Stone's JFK. It's when the Warren Commission is interviewing Jack Ruby in his Dallas jail cell. And he's, like, freaking out. And he's like, they're actually quoting from his Warren Commission testimony. But the clip ends right at the part where he says there was no conspiracy. So they just don't tell the audience
that part out.
They left that part out, yeah. And also, it's deceptively edited, where he says, like, I'm going to tell what I know, and then I'm going to leave this world. And as he says those words, leave this world, the scene cuts to two guys rolling a body out on a gurney. But the time between Jack Ruby being interviewed for the Warren Commission and his death, it was like years. It was like 3 years later, you know? Yeah. So when they cut it like that in the movie, it implies that one event immediately followed the other, which is not what actually happened. But it would lose its dramatic effect if you had a little title, 3 years later, he's dead, you know? Like, that's a very slow-moving conspiracy. Sorry, a bunch of messages here. It's a busy day on my phone. This is one that was good discussion last time from Shar Collins. Who are the people or families that the DOJ, FBI, CIA, etc. are protecting? The Warren Commission deliberately avoided so much testimony. It's disgraceful. It's not necessarily...
It's not disgraceful. It's just the way things are. I mean, okay, that investigation would have led to other areas which are not necessarily directly connected with the assassination, right? And would have compromised a lot of people and compromised national interests. That's the reason why, you know, the CIA did such a big cover-up on this. And this is just how these things work, you know. The general public just doesn't understand that.
Well, I mean,
that's just the way how bureaucracies work.
Yeah.
I mean, I gave you an example last week, I think. The ultra secrets, World War II, right? When Britain was reading Germany's military and diplomatic secrets from the Enigma machine. Mm-hmm. So that was an official secret until 1976. It was 31 years after the war ended.
I'm still working on this.
So the question is, why did they keep it secret after the war ended?
It's just the nature of the bureaucracy.
The nature of bureaucracy. It's the nature of the beast.
But also, there's stuff that they have to keep secret. You know, like sorry, it just told me charging pause. My battery temperature is too high. I'm like, that's not good. So, what do we know for sure? We know for sure that the CIA was set up shop across the street from the Soviet embassy in Mexico City. And we know for sure that they were photographing everybody going into and out of that building, right? Mm-hmm. So now the question should be asked, what don't we know for sure? You know, if we were to learn somehow in the future that in addition to photographing everybody that went into and out of that building, we also had wiretaps on their phones. We also had listening devices. We know that KGB in Mexico City calls KGB in Moscow Center right after Oswald's visit to get information about him. Would it shock you to know that we intercepted that transmission and we have a whole transcript of what was said? No, it wouldn't shock me at all to learn that. It would not shock me at all. So, that being said, I mean...
Yeah, no, it's not disgraceful at all.
It's not as sinister as people make it out to be. When Oswald originally went to the Soviet Union and he made contact with the State Department saying, hey, I'm staying here, I'm renouncing my citizenship, State Department might have went to Central Intelligence and said to them, okay, we've got this guy that's gone over to Russia and now he says he's renouncing his citizenship and living here. Can you guys look into that for us? Can you guys find any information on that for us? Maybe Central Intelligence had human intelligence sources inside the Horizon radio plant in Minsk and they asked them to report on Oswald. I mean, there's all kinds of potential explanations for why things are still classified decades later that isn't, you know, it was a conspiracy the government is covering up for themselves.
Plus it could expose what's known as a modus operandi.
Yep.
The way certain agencies operate. They don't want people to know that. Right?
No.
It's not something that's in the interest of the general public anyway.
Yeah.
So no, I don't see a big deal about it.
No, I don't either. I'd rather just reread the Warren Commission instead of just reading a rehash. Okay. James Wilcott, I don't know who that is. Okay. Sorry, I have this all on Facebook, so I kind of got to go jumping from group to group looking for these questions.
Oh, you got private messages as well?
I did, yeah, but we went through most of those already. Nope, none there. I mean, it's as the years go on, as the decades go on, it's just getting harder and harder to conceive of what this actually could have been. I'd like to know why Guy Bannister took the giant step down the career ladder from the FBI field office in Chicago to become a private detective in New Orleans. And I'd like to know if the rumors of Oswald having known Clay Shaw and David Ferry are true or not. I'm aware that Oswald had certainly met Ferry years earlier in the mid-50s, but I'm wondering if they knew each other beyond that chance encounter. I don't think they did.
I don't think they did either.
I don't even think they really knew each other when they were in the Civil Air Patrol. Like, the amount of time Oswald was in the Civil Air Patrol for, it was a relatively short period of time, you know?
I believe it was towards the tail end of Ferry's tenure.
Yeah, by the time he was even in there, yeah.
He may even have retired from there.
Well, I mean, there's the one photo of them together, and that's it.
Okay over here?
Yeah, we're good, thanks. There's the one photo of them together, and that's it. And that's all. So other than they were together that one time when that one photo was taken,
No.
before that there's no links, and after that there's no links.
Yeah, the Garrison lead is just a total rabbit hole.
It is.
Total waste of time.
I mean, it's just stuff the guy made up. And actually, I was reading something from Fred Litwin the other day saying that Garrison's family had a history of mental illness. And I was like, okay, yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I could totally believe that. Why did Guy Bannister take the giant leap down on the career ladder to open a private detective agency in New Orleans?
He retired, right?
Yeah, he was retired. It was just a job he was doing mostly for kicks in retirement.
Yeah.
Scott Haggerty says, I like this group, has really good knowledge on all the different topics and subjects, of which there are many. For me, I would like to hear discussion on the identity of all the different assassins and where they were located in Dealey Plaza that day. There aren't any.
Sorry, there aren't any.
It was just
at least there's no
Oswald.
evidence for any.
I responded to him. I said, I guarantee you will not like that discussion, but we will address it anyway. He said, thanks, that's all I ask. Lance Corson asks, Oswald's best escape route? He didn't have enough money to get to Mexico City, but he did have enough money to get to Laredo, Texas. And from there, he could have walked over the border into Mexico, but, I mean, it would have taken like literally every penny he had on him at that point to get there.
Yeah, totally.
So he wouldn't have even had money for food or anything else. So again, I don't really think there was an escape plan.
Okay, so that amount of money that he had, that was enough to get him to Laredo?
Mm-hmm.
You think so?
Yeah. Well, our buddy Joseph actually did a study of this, and he got the information for bus routes which would have been accessible to him in and around the Dallas area and how much the tickets would have cost. So he does not have enough money to go to Mexico City, but he does have enough money to go to Laredo, Texas.
And just walk across the border?
And then just walk across the border. But
it's probably really easy back then.
I mean, what are you going to do? Are you going to walk across the border and your buddies from the Cuban embassy in Mexico City are going to be waiting there to spirit you away? Like, it's just incidental to note he had enough money to get to Laredo, Texas. I don't think he ever had intent to actually get to Laredo, Texas. Martin J. Kelly asks, where are all the Snowdens of yesteryear? I mean, even back in those days, you had Daniel Ellsberg with the Pentagon Papers, right? Like the leakers were leaking back in those days. So I mean, yeah, where were all the leakers then? You know, somebody said it's like if they joined the Warren Commission as a junior staffer, wanting to find a conspiracy, wanting to expose it and to become this big hero, you know.
Right.
But it was just never there. They could just never find any proof of anything because there never was proof of anything to begin with. David Mendeliovac, sorry, my pronunciation is terrible, asks, how do we keep trolls out of the group?
I don't think we should, really. I mean, it depends on what you mean by a troll.
Well, like, if the troll is actually engaged in discussion and it's furthering the discussion, I say let them go.
Let them go. They make their own side look bad anyway. I mean, I'd draw the line at personal insults and things like that.
Yeah.
But no, I'm against censoring speech.
Yeah.
I never really did like that.
Here's one we discussed last time. Matt Gotts asks, maybe you could try to come up with a possible explanation as to what happened to the first bullet, which is now generally believed to have missed. Max Holland devoted an entire documentary to this subject, but couldn't seem to come up with any convincing theories. Maybe the two of you will have better success. My personal opinion about the first bullet is that it disintegrated when it hit the pavement. So,
and he said that last week that people saw sparks fly off the pavement or something.
Yeah. There's a couple of eyewitnesses who report seeing sparks as the motorcade passed by, and somebody thought they were throwing a firecracker at the motorcade, and they thought, oh, those people are going to get themselves in lots of trouble. But really what I think people saw, it wasn't a firecracker being thrown, it was a spark from the bullet disintegrating against the pavement. Because there's a maximum possible angle at which the shot can occur.
Yeah.
Because Oswald is in an elevated position looking down, right? So within that possible angles of where the shot can occur, there's an even more narrow window, which would allow the projectile to hit the pavement and ricochet off. Outside of that narrow window, it's going to disintegrate, or it's just going to go like flat and skid against the pavement until it stops and it would have been recovered.